Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Thanks for coming back. We're going to take a look at Dorico tutorials. This is part 4. If you haven't seen the first 3, go check those out somewhere over here, and you can learn all sorts of interesting things about Dorico and getting started. So we're going to cover a variety of different topics today, and if you want to skim through and see what those are, you can check those out in the description below. They have timestamps, so you can click on that, and it'll take you to that specific subject. Now, if you have a question that you're not getting answered, throw that in the comments below. Be sure to like the video, and you can subscribe to the channel. You can also become a member and support what we're doing here. So that way you stay tuned to all the upcoming tutorials and information and live streams that happen all about this music production stuff. All right, so this is Dorico Tutorials Part 4. Here in measure 14, in the right hand, we want to write some music that's going to go in contrary motion. Now, if we were to double click in here, and let's select eighth notes and start writing E, D, we're overwriting what we had before. What we want is to write music that's going to be in addition to in another layer. If we go over here to the left, we have a whole menu. And any menu with this little sign on the bottom right, this little arrow, means that there are additional options. If we right click here, we can see an option for create a voice, create a slash voice, like for rhythm, or we can move to the next voice. What we want to do is this first one, create a voice. And now you can see it has a plus the number of the voice that we're adding in. So let's add some music now. We'll go E, D, C, B. Let's switch to a quarter note, and we'll go A, B, C. Now if we exit out of here, we can see that we have multiple layers going in different directions. Another way we could see this is to look at our voice colors, which is going to show each layer. If we go up to View in the top left menu, and now we go to Notes, Rests, Colors, we can select Voice Colors. And now you can see these are the different layers we have. We have a blue one at the top, a purple one, or a pink one. And we can also ask these to swap. Perhaps we want to change the direction of certain notes. We could do that by working with voice layers. Now, working in this music, we want to add a slur to this area here in our second voice. So we're going to select this E, hold Shift, we're going to select this B, and we now have everything in the measure selected. We could hold Control and select the A to deselect it, and then we could add a slur. Or if this was selected, we could right click, go to Filter, and then we want to select Notes or Voices. We want all downstem voices. And now it is selecting only the lower voice. Now that we have this voice selected, we want to add a slur. And all we have to do is hit the letter S. And now we have a slur. If we wanted to add other articulations to this voice, we could select here, holding Control, I'll select the B as well, and I'll hit S to add a slur. If I wanted to select this whole measure, and all I want to work with are the top notes or the top voice, I could right click, filter, and then by voice, I could select all up-stemmed voices. And now I've got those notes selected only. So perhaps I'll hit S and now add a slur just to those up-voiced notes. Let's go ahead and add some lyrics to our piece. To do that, we need a vocalist. We're going to go to Setup in the top left corner, And then we're going to add a vocalist. So we'll hit the Add a Player button. And now let's search for soprano. So here we're going to take a soprano and we're going to add that. Now our soprano has been placed in an interesting spot. We have the piano, soprano, and viola, but we want our soprano on top. So to move the soprano to the top, all we have to do is click and select and drag it up to the top. And now our soprano has been moved to the top. We could also move our piano player to the bottom. We have some music in our viola, and we want to change the durations of these notes in measure 11. So we could select this measure, and over here with our rhythmic menu, we could change our note length. Perhaps we want 16th notes, and it will change all of our notes to 16th notes or 8th notes. And you can see that it's keeping the note in its original beginning position and only changing the duration. It does then add in a rest after each 8th note. To move the notes left or right, they would be moved on our rhythmic grid. If we double click in this measure, we can see our rhythmic grid, the rhythmic resolution, is quarter notes. To change this, we would go down to the bottom left, select this, and now we could change to a different duration. Let's select 8th note. So now we can see 8th notes in our rhythmic resolution grid. So if we select this F here and hold the Alt key and move it to the left, we've been able to move it just 1/8 note. We could also move it to the right. We could also select multiple notes by dragging and selecting and holding the Alt left, and it's moved everything we selected for as much of the rhythmic resolution grid we are in. So that means if we were to change this to 16th notes and move it to the left again by holding Alt and moving the left arrow, we've moved the same duration over 1/16th note. So you don't want to move things in and out without knowing what your rhythmic resolution is, because you don't want to accidentally overlap. Another way we could change these 4 quarter notes into a different duration is by selecting the measure, and then over here on the left, we can select this Insert Voice tool. By selecting this, we can now change all of the notes in this measure to a different rhythmic duration by selecting it in this menu. So if we select 8th notes, it's changed all of the notes to 8th notes. Or we could change them all to 16th notes. The caveat with this is that it will move to the left any notes that are on this side. So for example, if I set this back to quarter notes, and in this measure 12, I'll add in a few notes. Let's add in some 16th notes. And here we're going to type in E, D, C, B. And now we have these notes in our measure. But if we select this measure, we select the Insert Voice, and we change it to 8th notes, everything that was to the right of it is pulled to the left just as much as this. So this can be a very useful tool, but especially warning for if there's anything to the right of the measure, because you could pull it along with you. Let's add some lyrics for our soprano. So we're going to select this E, and we're going to do Shift plus L for lyrics. And this box here is telling us what verse we're typing in, which is verse 1. So we'll say hi, and then spacebar to continue. my spacebar name spacebar is spacebar. And now we're going to give the soprano's name Marie. So we're going to go M, A, and then a dash, and then R-I-E, spacebar. And that's how we get a dash in between a word that's spread across two notes. Let's keep adding some lyrics. We're going to select this A, Shift plus L, and type I space M space. And now we have a word that's going to stretch over multiple notes. We're going to put in the word happy. So we're going to put HA and then space to move to the next, space to move again, and now close the word PPY and hit spacebar to move to the next note. We're going to type as spacebar can spacebar be period, and then we'll escape. So here we have this lyric extension because we hit the spacebar twice, so it carries over. We could also indicate this for the singer by selecting this C and hitting S to add a slur. This section is repeated, so we need to add a second verse. Let's select this first note and hit Shift plus L. And here we can see, as it's number 1, this is our first verse where it says hi. But we want a second verse, so we're going to hit the down arrow, and we now have verse 2. So let's add verse 2. And now we have a second verse that has automatically been placed underneath our first verse. Perhaps we want to see that this is clearly two different verses. Let's select the word hi, and then here at the bottom, let's open our additional options. These can show all sorts of information for our lyrics, including we could check this box and show verse number. We could also select this second verse and check this box and check this to show verse number. Often in music, we want to show that lyrics are part of a chorus. So we can select these lyrics, and now in our drop-down menu here for lyrics, we can select that it's a chorus. And for each word in the chorus, it will automatically become cursive. Let's add some special text to note that this is the second edition of this music. So here we're going to add this as a wildcard under File and Project Info. And we're going to put this within the project info and not in the flow info. So let's put this under Publisher. And we're going to add second edition. Now we could have put this anywhere. You'll see that in a moment. But for right now, we're going to put it under Publisher. And we're going to hit Apply and Close. Now we're going to go to Engrave mode up here in the left-hand corner. And we're going to select our Frames tool. Our Frames tool, and we can now impact the blue squares or even green ones. So here, I have selected the title box. If I hit Enter, I can see the wildcard project title. Here, if I select where my name is and I hit Enter, I can see the wildcard is Project Composer. So what we're going to do is double click in this left box here, and we can see a wildcard for Project Lyricist. And we don't have anything in project info that is being placed here. So we are going to delete this and then right click. We're going to add project info and we're going to add publisher. And now if we click out of here, we can see that it's added second edition. But I could have placed any one of these wildcards. The first being for project info, the second being for flow info. There are all sorts of additional options, including dates, pages, music symbols, and layout numbers. Perhaps you want to have the player name. So if I click that and I select out of it, you can see it's showing second edition and then soprano, viola, and piano to show all of the players' names. It would be good to double click in here and add a space in between the two wildcards. Sometimes after importing an XML file, Finale can add a strange extra space to the margin, or perhaps the margins aren't as clear from Finale to Dorico. To see this better, we can go into engrave mode, where we can see the lines of the margins for the page, as well as the frames. We can edit this margin size from library and then layout options. Here in layout options, we're going to scroll down to page margins. Another thing to note is the layout is being impacted by whichever one is highlighted here in the right-hand corner. So perhaps we wanted a smaller page margin for the full score. We could select in here and type 12.82. We'll change all these to 12.82. And this is going to only impact what is highlighted, which is our full score. So we'll hit apply. Now, if we go to our soprano part, we can still see that it has page margins of 14.82. This can be very useful if your score is a larger size, like 11 by 17, but your parts are a specific size, like 8.5 by 11 or 10 by 13. We've done a lot of work on our full score here, but let's take a look at our viola part. Up here, next to print, is the name of all of the parts. So if we hit this drop-down menu, we can see we can access any one of our parts. So let's click on the viola part. Here, we can see we have all sorts of information. We once again have this popping up, though we erase that from the full score. This is because of page templates, which we'll look at a little bit later. But here you have access to all of your parts, and you can swap in between them. You can write in them as well. For example, in my soprano part, if I wanted to add some notes to this fifth measure, I'll go into write mode. We'll select here, hit enter, and now let's add 5 quarter notes. These notes are a bit high or low, so I'm going to select them all, hold Control Alt up, and move them up the octave. So we added these notes in measure 5. Let's go take a look at the score, and we can see that now in measure 5, we have notes from the soprano that weren't there before. Each one of the parts are connected to the score, just like in Finale. Are these helpful? Are you finding these subjects and mini videos really helpful? Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what questions you have. And I'll see you next time with the next version of the Dorico tutorial shorts.